Beneath the placid surface of the frozen northern seas drifts a creature both majestic and tragic, the white whale, with its gleaming skin reflecting the cold, indifferent light of the Arctic sun. One might expect perfection, a symbol of nature's serene beauty. Yet, lurking in this surreal visage is a grotesque horror, an open wound festering with clam infestation, a vicious assault from tiny invaders that cling relentlessly to the flesh, turning this giant of the deep into an unwilling host to a living nightmare. This is no ordinary injury. It is a raw, throbbing cavity where the clam's sharp shells dig for purchase, tearing at muscle and fat, exposing tender flesh to the salty water and endless cold. The wound oozes with the clam's secretions, a slippery, slimy mess that invites further decay. It's as if the whale's once pristine body is being ravaged from within, a battlefield where parasite meets prey in a slow and grisly war. Clam infestation, in this context, is a dark symbiosis. These mollusks, far from passive hitchhikers, embed themselves deep into the whale's wound, their shells growing between the folds of broken tissue. They multiply, encrusting the area like living barnacles, their presence turning the injury into a festering, uneven landscape of pain and cellular breakdown. What begins as a minor breach, a scrape against an ice shelf, or an unfortunate puncture from a predator, escalates into a festering hub of crustacean chaos. The clams feed off the nutrients in the dim shadows of the dense rainforest, where light barely kisses the earth. A jaguar prowls, a magnificent beast, the very embodiment of wild power and stealth. Yet, beneath the veneer of this regal predator lies a grotesque tableau of misery. Across the jaguar's muscular torso, grotesque cocoons protrude like sinister tumors, mottled and swollen, harboring a hidden horror, a parasitic infestation unlike anything seen by delicate human eyes. These parasite cocoons cling to the flesh, disturbingly pulsating with a jagged rhythm of life and decay intertwined. The sight alone turns stomachs, a gruesome mask of nature's darker craftsmanship, illuminating the brutal, unseen battles hidden deep within the wild. The jaguar's lacerations are riddled with wart-like cysts, firm yet disturbingly soft to the touch, housing the writhing larvae of parasitic insects. These parasites, often botflies or warble flies, have found the jaguar an unwitting host. Their life cycle is a macabre performance. The flies, carriers of their insidious progeny, deposit eggs on the jaguar's skin or within its fur. Once hatched, the larvae burrow under the flesh, creating swollen pockets of infected tissue. These are the cocoons visible to the naked eye, grotesque bubbles of nature's morbidity. Within these flesh-bound prisons, the larvae feast on the nutrients of the jaguar's tissues, slowly growing, breathing within their living fortress, until the time comes to escape and continue the cycle. Magnifying this rotting spectacle, the jaguar's skin is inflamed, reddened, sometimes broken open, oozing infected fluid that invites secondary bacterial invasions. In the vast expanse of the untamed wilderness, where every creature fights for survival against the relentless forces of nature, there lurks a grotesque and unsettling reality that often escapes our sanitized view of wildlife. Today, we turn our gaze to a solitary bison, a majestic beast that once roamed freely across the plains, now bearing a wound so horrifying it seems almost unnatural, a gaping, festering lesion emblazoned with the twisted handiwork of parasitic torment. This open sore, raw, and exuding a sickly pus, is not just a mark of injury, but an active, living battlefield where microscopic and macroscopic invaders wage a grim war upon their host. The parasite infestation etched deep into this bison's skin offers a chilling glimpse into a dirty secret of the animal kingdom, where survival often hinges on the endurance of unspeakable afflictions. Parasites, in their many forms, inhabit the coils and crevices of the earth and evolve in tandem with their hosts. For this bison, the wound is a gateway, a breeding ground for a variety of parasitic organisms. At the surface, we see flies, iridescent czars of decay, laying eggs that soon hatch into writhing larvae, their tiny bodies tearing through flesh with surgical precision, feasting on necrotic tissue and living skin alike. Beneath this moving, pulsating mass lies a more insidious enemy. Mites burrow deep into the skin, their presence barely detectable except for the torment they inflict as they tunnel through layers of dermis, triggering intense irritation and inflammation. These mites leave behind scars and open channels, which serve as additional entry points for secondary infections, a microbial siege of bacteria and fungi that thrive in the wet, necrotic environment of the wound. The bison's hairy hide, once a protective barrier, now becomes a landscape sculpted by parasitic agriculture. Maggots cleanse the in the shadowed heart of the savanna, where light bends to the will of nightfall, and silence is broken only by the whisper of grass. There lurks a figure that defies the usual narratives of strength and beauty, not a myth, nor a creature born from the depths of a fever dream, but a black lion, a king shrouded not just in darkness, but in the grotesque theater of nature's relentless and unyielding cruelty. This lion, majestic and terrifying in his ebony coat, conceals a horror beneath his regal exterior, a wound festering with parasites so vivid and vile that it etches a story of pain and survival into the very flesh of the beast. The wound itself is a cavernous abyss etched into his flank, pulsing with a sickly warmth that speaks of infection and decay. It is a raw, crimson landscape of torn flesh and swollen tissue where countless parasites have taken residence. These aren't your garden variety ticks or fleas. These are the ravenous, the insatiable invaders, the larval maggots that feast on decaying matter, the writhing, translucent worms burrowing deeper into muscle and sinew, and the creeping mites, with their microscopic pincers digging mercilessly into the lion's skin. These unwelcome tenants of torment crawl in choreographed chaos, a swirling nightmare that blurs the line between the lion's body and parasitic colony. Parasite infestation, while a naturally occurring phenomenon in the wild, reveals the delicate balance between life and death. It's a symbiotic relationship turned sour, an intricate dance of survival where the parasite exploits every weakness it can find, from broken skin to compromised immune defenses, turning the strong into the vulnerable. The black lion's wound is a testament to this grim reality. As these parasites burrow, they secrete enzymes that dissolve tissue, creating a feast of liquefied flesh that sustains them but devastates their host. The infestation invites secondary infections, bacterial invasions that compound the suffering, swelling the wound, and causing excruciating pain that no majestic roar can mask. This parasite colony not only steals nutrients, but hijacks the lion's very biology, altering his behavior and weakening his defenses. Fatigue sets in, muscles atrophy, and the once mighty predator's movements grow sluggish. The wounds exude a foul. In the shadowed depths of the savanna, where the sun bleeds into blood-red dusk, a rare and horrifying spectacle unfolds, one that forces even the most hardened naturalist to look away with a shiver. Here lies the black lion, a creature of myth and mystery, its sleek obsidian coat tarnished by a grotesque, unnatural wound. This is no ordinary scar, but a sinister cocoon, a living tomb from which dark parasites wriggle and pulse, a foul testament to life's relentless, merciless drive. This lion, once the undisputed monarch of its realm, now wears its suffering as a grotesque crown, a festering tapestry of infection and decay woven into the very flesh of a predator. The wound is like something ripped straight from the pages of a nightmare, an open cavity where layers of skin and muscle have been replaced by a hardened cocoon of organic material, glossy and slick, suspiciously alive. Upon closer examination, threads of parasitic larvae can be seen twitching beneath the surface, their translucent bodies writhing in a symbiotic, though lethal, dance with their unwilling host. This cocoon is not a natural defensive scar, but the horrifying breeding ground of an infestation, a biological horror show played out in slow, merciless motion. Unseen to the casual observer, the parasites burrow deeper, ravaging nerve endings and muscles, while the lion faces the cruel paradox of pain and survival. This wound is a grotesque portal between predator and prey dynamics, a living embodiment of nature's darker mechanics. Parasites, by design, are the ultimate freeloaders, entities that thrive at the expense of others, often with brutal efficiency. In the shadowed heights of the Himalayas, where the cold bites with an unforgiving chill, and the jagged cliffs carve the sky, a silent horror lurks beneath the snow leopard's thick fur. This creature, a ghostly monarch of these brutal mountains, is crippled by a grotesque affliction, a parasitic flower wound, pulsating with a sickly bloom of flesh that resembles a vile, carnivorous blossom. This malignant growth oozes a putrid mixture, a festering wound teeming with life forms no one wishes to imagine. It's as if the mountain spirit, in some cruel twist, has allowed a sinister floral parasite to entwine itself around the snow leopard's vitality, a dark bloom feeding on its blood and marrow, draining strength and hope alike. But the nightmare doesn't end here. Encrusted on the broken fur near the wound lies another invader. Barnacles. Yes, barnacles. Those crusty sea hitchhikers, clinging with stubborn tenacity to a creature far from the ocean.